All right, welcome to the Goat Cafe's open.
Chocolate milk tonight?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some good chocolate milk. It's the one-handed milking here. Let's do it. Yeah, just the goats are alchemists, you know? They're just taking all these amazing plants out here and turning them into this delicious white gold.
Mm-hmm.
Logs of locust cedar splits.
I hope you liked that milking intro with Callie Russell, who's today's guest on the Ground Shots podcast, episode number 83. Many years ago, when I started the podcast, I did another interview with someone and their goats walking, Adam Stolte, and lots of folks have really commented to me about how much they love that episode and the soundscapes. So this one will have similar diverse soundscapes as that one. There's no pig in this one. In Adam Stolte's episode, when we're walking, episode number 10 of the podcast back in 2019, we were in Oregon near Hood River, and we were on a goat walk for most of that interview, and he does milk his goats as well in the conversation, so you can go back and listen to that one too if you want. But yeah, it was a favorite for a lot of people. Welcome. It's been a couple months, and I've been slow to get out new interviews. It seems to be my trend lately. Burst out a bunch at once and then take a break for a bit just because of my life these days. And I think the last episodes we put out were in January, and this interview I did with Callie was in March while we were camped together in New Mexico along a river. It was us and her goats and some other friends, and it was a really wonderful time this year. And after a bit of time, we talked about doing a podcast interview. You might know Callie Russell from The Alone Show. I've actually never watched The Alone Show ever, even though I have a few friends who have been on, but I really have never watched it. We actually talk about that in this episode a little bit, of like not having access to TV or mainstream media in that way, and how we aren't really tuned into what that world is totally like. But yeah, so I haven't actually watched any of her episodes, but we've been friends for years and known each other for years. So I do have some shared community with Callie, and so it's easy for us to sit down and chat and go on a walk together. So it was a really fun interview to do with her, and I'm really excited to put another sort of field recording style conversation out there versus like an online interview. So I really hope you appreciate that aspect of it. Couple announcements before we get into it. I'm gonna be sprinkling a few announcements within the conversation, so I don't have these longer intros that I tend to have. So you'll hear a little bit now, but then you'll hear a little bit like interjecting here and there inside the interview. I'm gonna try that out this time. I see other people doing that on other podcasts, so it will be a new thing, and hope you don't mind to keep this project going. It helps me to announce projects and doing some collaborations with other people whose work I believe in to help support the podcast or me. But overall, I don't have like big sponsors or anything or big fiscal support for this podcast. So if you enjoy this project, want to hear more episodes come out more regularly, if I had financial support that was consistent, it would definitely encourage that to happen. So if you feel compelled, Venmo is Kelly-Moody-6, and there's other ways to support as well, like subscribing to my Substack, groundshots.substack.com, and that is a really great way to get involved and to support the project. Speaking of Substack, this will be one thing I'll announce right now. before we get into the conversation, Callie tells an extra story in this episode, and to try to keep the time down, since I tend to do these longer episodes, and I know some people love it, some people don't, I cut out that story to be able to make it a shorter episode. And it's about a 15-minute story about her saving one of her goats from a mountain lion. And you can find that right now on Substack for paid subscribers to the Ground Shots Extra project I do on there. So they're extra podcast episodes associated with the podcasts that you get access to if you subscribe as a paid subscriber. So you can go listen to that on there if you become a monthly or yearly subscriber. That would be awesome for your support. And you also get to hear this crazy story, and just go there if you want to check it out. So a couple things too about this episode. There's a little wind interference here and there, and we were outside. Spring winds in the southwest are very unpredictable. I tried my best to keep the mic covered with this fake fur thing that I have called a dead cat. It's kind of a name for it in sound engineering speak, even though I'm far from a sound engineer, but I try my best to have some archaic technology to interface with the podcast. And so I was trying to cover it up, but there was a couple moments just in the beginning mainly where we had a little sound interference, but I didn't want to cut it out because it was just in the flow of our walk. So just so you know about that. And we also start the episode at camp in casual conversation. Our friend Rain is also there, and we're all talking about various camp life things. So there's a little banter at the beginning, but we get into the walk. We leave the camp and we get into the walk after about 10 minutes or so. So if you want to skip camp banter, you can, but it is also a little funny and like a little lens into our world together. The things that we are talking about at camp before we take off with goats, and the whole process of taking off on a walk with goats. And also in this episode, near the end of the main interview, we had to kind of restart it because there was an accident that happens on air, me basically getting knocked off a cliff by a goat, and it's being recorded, and then the recording gets shut off because I'm like trying to keep myself from falling down this cliff, and the recording is like under my hands, wrapped around me, and Callie's like trying to pull me up. The goats are running by. It's a little bit of a crazy moment. It could have been really bad. There was like prickly pears below me and a cliff to the river that we were walking along. So you get a little glimpse on air of something we do talk about in the podcast is like goats are pretty safe, but there's times where they accidentally cause harm, not on purpose. And this was one of those cases that could have been really bad. So a little exciting moment, but could have been really bad moment on the podcast of me almost falling down a cliff. One of the announcements I want to make now before we get into it is that I am teaching field ecology courses this summer, and I haven't had any new podcast episodes out, so you haven't heard about it from here. But if you've been listening to the podcast, you know I did it last year, and I had a bunch of classes at different elevations here in Western Colorado last year that I hosted, and we've already done some spring classes, and right now we are gathering signups for my August class. That's a week long, and then Nikki Hill, who's been on the podcast a couple times, is doing 2 classes in late August and early September. So if you are interested in studying with either of us, this is kind of one of the only opportunities to do a big formal in-person class with us. So check it out. I have the link in the show notes for this episode. And if you are interested in my work and have really enjoyed the kinds of intersections of things that I explore on this podcast, it is a big part of the work that I share in person, teaching plant ID and landscape awareness and natural skills, but also we do lots of deep dives into the social, cultural philosophy of land connection in modern times, and how to acknowledge and understand the lenses that we see through to look at so-called nature or a place in nature, and how we move about on the landscape, how we name and see things. And it's a constantly unfolding process, and that's an integral part of my work. Certainly we look at wild edibles and what plants are medicinal, and we learned plant families to try to understand what families or groups of plants are poisonous or more edible. And all of those skills are a part of it, but we also contextualize it in human co-created landscapes in the history of human participation in ecology. So would love for you to come. I would love more podcast audience people to come. We had some folks last year who were fans of the podcast who've been listening for a while and decided to come out. And we had people come from all over North America, the US and Canada, and even England last year. And this year we have had some diverse places that people have come from as well. Let's go ahead and get to this episode with Callie Russell, and I'll interject little announcements here and there throughout the episode so you can hear more things I have to share coming up or are in motion right now. But I want to go ahead and get to this sweet convo. Callie and her goats.
Oh my gosh, she's so lazy looking.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Kellie's got her headphones on.
Just testing it out.
I was wondering if that wind was picking up, like, right. I was like, it's time to go. And I was like, oh man. But now it's like calmed down again.
Yeah, I think
Which is
we'll
good.
just see how it goes.
Awesome. Well, cool. I was just getting ready to go, but I was like trying to get this to where I could wear it a little bit more to see like how I want to change stuff.
Wear it on the walk.
Yeah. Just
Test
to like,
it out.
yeah, do a little test drive, you know, see different things.
And you sewed the sides today?
Yeah, I'm gonna trim more of that, and I put this pocket in, which is cool. But we're having Rain was helping me with a dilemma because
deliberating over what way to tie it, where, and
what
the pocket does.
I designed the dress to have this panel in the front, but then the pocket isn't on my skin, it's on that other hide, so it like kind of sits a little weird.
Smooth, yeah. That's something that's hard to think about ahead of time. You're only going to put one pocket in?
Well, I was going to put two, but I think I'm only going to put one now because of how I chose this like super thin hide. It's so thin, but it still like adds more bulk than I really want, so I think, look, this from all the pins. When I was wearing the dress with the pins yesterday. Did you see that?
Scratching you.
Anyway, I was getting this on to go, and then I'm like, wait a second, should I have this on the outside or this on the outside? Can't decide.
Hey, you think you got sunburnt yesterday? I got fucking roasted today.
Yeah, Rain just came back. He's been sitting out there.
Yeah, I was feeling it over here. I was getting stuff tidied and packed up and like
What do you mean?
shirt on and off.
What do you mean? Packed up? Kelly.
Just packing stuff.
Kelly.
Cleaning my nasty cooler out with rotten deer blood in it. And
Oh, really?
You still have the Dometic
stinky.
cooler?
Yeah.
Still running on battery?
Not right now. The battery is dead and I don't have a panel for it right now. So
Oh, so you just use it as a regular cooler?
I am at the moment, unless I can charge that thing more regularly in other ways, like driving or plugging it into the grid. So until I figure out the panel thing again. But yeah, I was doing that, and I need those mouse traps from you tonight. Hopefully I can catch them, because they're just
the mouse
I'm like, I
traps?
cleaned everything out and they're all poopy again everywhere, and I'm like, I
Do
can't.
you think... Are you planning to sleep in there tonight?
No. So yeah, I figure, well, since I'm not tonight, then it'd be a good night to put a few around, front and back. So
Yeah.
yeah, just organizing hides. I'm tying them all in rolls so that they don't take up so much space. I have so many hides things with me, and some of them I'm trying to keep super clean, and some of them I don't care. That's like a bit of that stuff. Yeah, it's hard. I feel like I got a little home over there. It's hard to go, but
I know.
No.
I have such a hard time. Every time I'm like moved in somewhere, I have such a hard time.
Babe, I told Kelly we were gonna pay her to stay with Landon and watch the goats.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
so yeah.
And why? But we're not even leaving though.
I know. But in case we go for the after party,
In case.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely would like to entice you to stay, but after everything you said earlier, I was like, well,
It's
I'm not
just-
trying to like
Obviously,
hold you back
mixed-
here.
If you guys see a prickly pear pad while you're on your walk,
You need some for sunburn?
Look at that.
Yeah.
I got roasted. Ow! Ow!
I saw
Yeah,
that
babe.
happening. I saw it happening.
What? Why didn't you tell me? I was too focused on breaking rocks to notice. Can you touch
sure
me
I got
again?
some
Your hands are cold.
My shoulder probably is a little bit, maybe.
Okay. All right, let's. Okay, you can chill. You keep chilling. I'm just gonna grab my backpack.
Who, me?
Well, you, yeah, but also Callie too, because I was just saying you don't have to like jump up because I'm grabbing my backpack.
Yeah.
Kelly.
Right?
Don't leave.
I know. I feel mixed feelings about it. I'll probably cry.
Oh, okay. I don't want to make you cry.
Well, you won't make me cry. I just do when I am with people and then leave. But
No, it'll be good. There's life things to do.
yeah.
Dang it. Does that mean I need to leave?
It's like paradise here.
It's so nice. It's really nice. It's a hard place to leave.
It is. I didn't think I'd be here more than 2 days, honestly.
Really?
It seemed like they'd be ready to get up and
They
go
will.
on a walk.
They will.
Nappy vibes. Goat nap.
Tell Jade to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, they'll go. They'll rally.
Does that mean I'm getting kicked out?
No, we're leaving.
We're gonna go on a walk and record.
Okay.
Oh, you mean because the wind? We have to get the goats, and they're part of it.
Oh,
If it
can
gets
you
too
just
windy,
touch
we'll come.
the back of my neck with your cold hands?
We'll just come back here and
Feel
sit
how
if
hot
we
I
have
am?
to, but we wanted to get on a little walk.
You know what you should do, Rain?
Mm.
Is dunk one of those towels in the river, wring it out, and then put it on your back. A nice wet towel.
No, I'd be freezing to death then.
You'll be fine.
Oh,
No undies for you today.
I'll wash them.
You washed your undies?
Wash them.
I've been trying to wash my undies for days, but they're just in a bucket by the river.
I did wash mine finally today.
Heck yeah.
Blood.
Here's to undie washing
Dried blood
day.
all over 'em, so- Yeah.
Oh, we need to filter our boil water.
Yeah, we should
And
get
I was
your water
gonna, I
filter
was
out.
gonna pull it out, but I really wanted to work on this dress, so I did that.
Instead of taking 2 seconds to pull out the water
Well,
filter.
it's not 2 seconds because it's deep.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
I also thought we could just
Two
boil,
extra minutes.
we could boil a big pot of water too.
Or we could take 2 extra minutes to get the water
Because,
filter out.
babe, I think boiling is good because the river's really sandy and it'll clog the filter
It's
up.
not that sandy.
I think we should save the filter for the backpacking trip. Yeah, I don't care where we go. I just want to
Yeah.
go out with the goats, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should come with. We're gonna go packing. It's gonna be so
No.
fun. Shandor's coming.
Really?
And Landon. And little
What?
Chiquita Mandita.
Who's
Yeah.
that?
We don't know about
Yeah,
that.
our friend.
Chiquita Mandita?
She's Chiquita Mandita.
Meet Mandy at winter camp.
Y'all are killing me. But
We were boning. We were all boning together. Do you remember?
boning?
She was a tiny little thing. She's like this tall.
Wait, boning?
Okay, we are gonna go record a podcast before
Wait,
it's dark,
what?
babe.
We're all boning together?
Oh yeah.
What do you mean?
You know, the clickety clackety.
Oh, I'm like,
We were boning.
So, all winter camp. We're like, oh
Like-
yeah, we're having a boning party in the tent tonight.
That's amazing.
I have to be told what the things mean sometimes.
Me all the time.
It was fun, Kelly. It was so much fun.
Just to clarify, if you didn't get it, boning in this context means playing bone instruments with friends.
And so, yeah, you should come. It'll be fun. Landon, Mandita.
Well, I'm going to extract myself from here, but if something happens where it just doesn't work and out there in the world, I will come back.
We'll be here. I know. I don't want to make you feel bad for leaving.
I know.
We would
I
be
don't
really
want to
happy if you
either,
stayed,
but I
but
feel bad that you're leaving.
I could pull the filter out, but I just thought we might boil.
Dilemmas of camp life. Boil or filter today?
Filter.
I've been boiling a little bit today. I'm finally out of all the spring water I had. It's definitely windy, but we'll make it work. Okay.
Have fun.
Okay, goats.
Come on, we're going on a walk.
Come on, goats. Wind's kicking up sand.
Sorry about the wind here. It's probably the worst spot in the whole interview, and I was sorting out my dead cat situation on my mic in that moment. But after this, there shouldn't be any more big wind moments.
Come on, goats. Who are we missing? Jade? Jade. When they're napping, they're in their siesta time, they get pretty relaxed, and sometimes before we leave camp, I like to make sure we have all the goats with us because sometimes one of them's napping. There's a willow moving. See?
Oh,
There. She must be there.
Jade.
Jade.
She's trying to get over here. Wonder what she's doing over there. Or is she just chilling, eating
She decided to go eat.
that willow over there?
Jade. Well, now we know where she is. We can go. She'll
Follow.
she'll hear us getting further away, and she'll come running. Come on, goats.
Oh my god.
They love going down hills, even though that's just a little hill. They get so excited and like to run down sideways, bucking and kicking and smashing heads all the way down.
And I was like, what's the purpose of this
The horns.
horn fighting thing? I guess it's just them playing.
Yeah, it's so many things. It's play, it's for fun, it's to sort of reestablish their hierarchy.
Right.
It's to experience the environment and, feel their horns are kind of like antenna and a little bit like, they're kind of experiencing the world. Hi, Jay, did you decide to join us? Did you decide to join us? Oh, that was rude. She just hooked Magpie, who is the number 3. Jade's number 2.
Who's
And-
number 1?
Sweet Eyes is number 1. She's the queen. And Jade was just reminding Magpie. That was more of a, hey, remember,
Gosh.
I'm number 2, you're number 3. As where the boys smashing heads just there, that was more of just like, woohoo, we're going on a walk, let's party.
Wow. You figure that out after a while, what's what,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy the longer, you spend with them, you start to speak their language and all read their body language and know, all their different facial expressions and how they move their ears. It's like you can read their minds and start to kind of speak their language with enough time and sometimes predict what they're going to do before they do it. Like,
I think I might leave my basket over here just so it's easier for me.
if there's anything that you want to bring, we can put it in my backpack. Goats really like eating baskets.
I know, I was like, it's not that exciting of a basket, but I like it. Seems like they like juniper too.
They love juniper. And I love that they love juniper too because it's pretty fun walking with the goats because when they're eating the different plants that they eat, they're mashing them up and they're like little essential oil diffusers, and you can smell all the essential oils in the air, and you can smell what they're eating, which is kind of nice, especially when it's juniper.
I got a whiff just now of it. Yeah, when they're hanging around our little camp for a while and eating juniper, it's just like, oh, it smells so good. Like it just rained or something.
Right?
So cool. It's been so cool to hang out with goats for the last month, pretty much, like pretty consistently. Just being around different goats and like getting familiar with their little quirks, You ever spent many like big periods without goats?
Between these two herds, so this is my second herd of goats, and between the first one and this one, I took a few years break. Onyx, come on. But I did still spend time with goats in that break, but I didn't have my own goats, so I got, time without goats. Onyx. You rascal.
Looking for somebody to wrestle.
But it was really interesting, when I went from the first herd that I had to not having them anymore, I felt such a sense of loneliness because every day I'd start my day with milking them, and my whole day really revolves around them. I'm sort of like there, just sometimes I feel like I'm more in service to them. Of course, they're in service to me, but I just feel like my day and my life really revolves around their needs and taking care of them. And, I might, even if I don't feel like going on a walk, we still go on a walk because they need to eat. Yeah. And when I, did that for years and then didn't have goats anymore, it was just it's like, what do I even do? Yeah. So that was
what's the purpose of life?
What's the purpose of life if the day doesn't start with milking goats?
I feel like I'm gonna feel like that when I leave here. I mean, I haven't been responsible for them like y'all are, but like just the routine of being around them, and there's like, you could be alone way out somewhere remote, but then you have them, and it just makes everything kind of okay. I don't know. Something soothing about having them around.
Yeah, they have a presence, and well, it's like when you're with them, you're part of the herd, and there's this belonging and sense of place with them, I feel like. And I think, yeah, like you say, you'll notice, when you're like, the goats aren't waking you up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I was kind of like, whoa. What happened?
Something spooked them. Oh. And it is Honey Wolf.
Who was with us, but they maybe didn't realize who it was, and now they do.
Yep. She's sleeping on the other side of the junipers, and
yeah, I was like, they're waking me up in the middle of the night, but also, it's so nice they feel comfortable enough to come lay around my bell tent. So nice. And maybe they'll go back home, I don't know, but yeah, it's been cool. Or they follow me.
We haven't been around Willow too much lately, so here they've been really happy. Willow's one of their favorite foods.
So in Montana, where you live during the warm season, is there willow there that they get to eat regularly, or?
It depends on where we are. There's different places that we stay up there, and some places are up kind of in the mountains and not really by willow. It's more kind of like Doug fir and western larch, ponderosa forests. But sometimes we stay down by the river and along creeks, and then there's a lot of willow, and they're pretty stoked about that.
And willow likes that too, likes to be nibbled. These are good juniper berries. I'm surprised. They're sweet almost.
Yeah. There is a really nice sweetness.
Doesn't always happen.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, just a few is enough.
Yeah.
But these are enticing to eat more.
I've been meaning to collect a few here, but haven't yet. You guys liking this juniper?
Yeah, they're really nice.
So we have, 11 here? Is that about as big as you've ever gotten with the herd, or is that?
I've had bigger herds. Even just this summer, there were 16 in the herd.
Whoa. And
last spring, there were all these guys plus 12 babies. So that was a lot of goats. Just a year from now.
Babies?
Yeah. Yeah, I had 6 does that gave birth, and they averaged 2 each, so it was 12 babies.
Oh my God.
Last year. Yeah.
Were they all sleeping in the bell tent with you even?
They were. Because it was still quite cold. It was snowing, and I wanted to keep them warm, so I brought them in the bell tent, and the 12 baby goats in the bell tent.
Oh,
it was
God.
a lot. I felt like a new mom, Like,
did they like
sleep
poop
deprived.
all over your bed and stuff?
Well, they will if you let them. They like to poop wherever, but I kind of made an area sort of partitioned off for them, and I had towels down, and so they would sort of poop on those, and I'd like wash the towels every day and have them drying in the sun, and then have these new towels every night.
Wow.
In their little zone. And I put a blanket over them. I sort of piled up some stuff to make this area, and then put the blanket over, and it was kind of cute at night. I felt that it was like a bird, like putting birds to sleep. You put the blanket over their little bird cage. You're like, okay, good night, you guys. But
that's cute. Put them to sleep.
They would still want milk in the night, though.
Really? And they'd make noises to get at Mom.
And I'd get up, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like having children.
I think they're called kids for a reason. There's so many things too. Like their cry, it really is human-like. The baby goat cry. That sounds a lot like a human.
Yeah.
And in a lot of other ways, they're like kids.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to get left behind. They all run.
That's a really cool thing I've realized about goats. Spending more time with them. I don't think I quite understood in the past. Like I lived on a farm in North Carolina with goats. We had a small group of them, but since they were always sort of in the pastures, not really ever going on walks with them. Sometimes the owner would take them, go walk up the hill, and they would follow so she could get them to go expand their horizons. Like, oh, we have all this pasture over there, But like how much, like I hung out with some friends a couple years ago with their goats too, and like just they will follow you. They don't want to get left behind. They don't want to be singled out somewhere. You don't have to like constantly keep them, be stressing so much anyways about keeping them in, because their instinct is to be together, right?
Exactly. Yeah, their instinct is to be together and to stay with the herd. And if there's movement, they want to move with the herd and stay together, which is really nice. And that's, one of the things that kind of separates them from other pack animals that people might bring into the backcountry. Most generally need to be on a lead. Llamas, mules, horses, they need to be, on a lead or tied up together, tied up at night. I guess even burros, camels, so many animals, they'll wander off, if they're not hobbled or tied up at night. But goats, they won't. Some goats might wander off eventually, but on the trail, they stay with you. They just follow. You don't have to have anybody on a lead.
If you're sleeping out with them, and they will just be right near you.
Yeah, they want to be close because they know their prey. They want to stay together. But some goats that are less bonded to humans might wander off. If they're not bonded to humans, then they'll be like, okay, we're our herd, we can go do our thing. But since they're bonded to me, and any goats that are bonded to humans, then it's sort of like I'm part of the herd too, so they want to stay with their humans.
So bonding to them starts when they're young. But you could bond to a goat that's an adult that you didn't raise up if they had been with other people, right?
Yes, yeah. That's right. Yeah, it just depends on how, they were raised. Even if it's by somebody else, they can be pretty well socialized. Even if somebody else did the socializing, then they just know. Like if you took these goats out on a packing trip, and I wasn't there, they would follow you because they're like, okay, well, we know humans take care of us. Our human's been good to us so far. This human will probably be good to us too, so we'll stick with her.
Yeah. And what else do we do out here? You know, we could try to go out on our own, but that might be kind of scary. And I wonder what their psychic connection's like with each other. Like, if they're all like thinking about the decisions they're making and all kind of communicating psychically. Like, okay, what do you think? What do you think? You know, I don't know.
With where to go.
Yeah, like in that kind of herd brain energy, you know.
Yeah, it is interesting thinking about that. Usually, you know, there's kind of a leader that makes the decisions about, okay, we're going to go eat over here. And, you know, a lot of times with this herd, it's me, since I'm taking them out on walks. But also, if I'm not around the queen, or in other herds too that maybe aren't so intertwined with a human, the queen makes those decisions. So there's a lead goat who is a female and is known as the queen, and she leads and decides, okay, we're going to go eat now. We're going to go over here to eat. And a good queen makes for a great herd. And if you don't have a good queen, oh, it's chaos in the herd.
Have you had that before?
Yes, I have.
What do you do? Like,
oh, goodness. It's really hard. The first herd I had, we had a really good queen, and she died. And then her daughter took her, or her granddaughter tried to take her place. But she was really inexperienced and not a good queen. And it just, there's all kinds of problems. Like, she would lead the goats too far to go off and eat. And one time they came back, they were gone. They didn't come home at night. And they came home in the middle of the night, minus 2 kids. So went looking all over for them. Spent the whole next day tracking and trying to find them. And so they got eaten probably by mountain lions, because I knew there was a mountain lion family up there.
wow. Like they got maybe left somewhere or snatched while they were out
They
alone.
probably got snatched, and that's what made them kind of run home in the middle of the night. But so that's with the you know, she wasn't a good leader. She didn't have enough experience to know. But it's amazing though how goats they're so adaptable, and they can go feral really easily. They do great. I mean, there's a lot of places that, you know, Hawaii has a feral goat population, and anywhere, I mean, the goats could just be released in most places and they would go feral and be just totally fine without any help from humans at all. Yeah, you've probably seen a lot of farms, a lot of places with goats, they don't have horns, and that's because they're disbudded, which means when they are little babies, just a week old, usually they have to be a week or less. So they're just these sweet little, beautiful, tiny, bouncing, happy babies. So if goats don't have horns, it means they're disbudded, which means when they were little babies, less than 10 days old, they're just tiny and sweet and cute. Their person who's raising them takes a hot iron and burns their head where the horns would grow in. They scald that area, so it, you know, damages and burns that area so the horns don't grow. And sometimes with males that have a lot of, you know, testosterone, like some crazy weird little horn lump thing will still grow. So it's pretty sad that people do that, because their horns are a body part that has many functions. Not only do they use it for, you know, they can protect themselves from dogs, from wild animals, they can protect themselves. It's also part of their whole social inner workings, how they interact with each other, how they interact with the environment. And also their horns help them regulate their body temperature. So they actually serve as sort of cooling towers. There's blood in their horns. They're not like antlers that fall off every year. They're a living part of their body. There's bone and blood under that outer horn piece that we see. And so when it's hot, their blood's going up there and going up and, you know, cooling down, just similar to jackrabbit ears. How jackrabbit ears do the same thing. They're thin and have all their blood vessels, and it cools them off. And anyway, so their horns help them regulate their body temperature. Without them, they're way more prone to overheating and having other problems that they can't quite regulate their body temperature. And most importantly, their horns are back scratchers. And if they don't have them, they cannot scratch their butt, and it's very sad.
No. They have to be creative, I guess.
They have to rub on trees or something. But it's really cool. You'll see them using their horns to scratch. They can get everywhere, their shoulders, their back, they can get all the way to their butt. They can scratch all these different places. And without their horns, I've seen goats without horns, they'll still do the head motion like they're trying to scratch. It's like a phantom limb sort of thing where they're trying to scratch, but they have no horns and they just have an itch.
I guess people do that because they think they're dangerous or something.
Yes, and they can be dangerous if you raise goats and don't put the time into socializing them. They can be pretty crazy and ornery, and if they have horns and they don't like people, they could hurt you. But if you put the time in and the training and the socializing, of course, horns can still be dangerous. Accidents happen, and there's more of a risk with horns than without horns, but it's part of them. It's part of their body, so I wouldn't consider taking their horns. And with the proper training from when they're little babies. So one of the first things when I take people on a goat walk, or I'm just around people that maybe haven't even been around goats, I say, okay, there's one rule here, and it's don't grab their horns, because that's one of the first things that people want to do, especially if they haven't been around goats. They want to just go and grab their horns because they're interesting looking. It seems like the texture would be cool to feel. And I tell people not to do that. And from an early age with these guys, they want to interact with people with their horns, because that's how they interact with the world, is they want to rub their horns on people. They want to play with people. It's just like dogs and biting. They want to chew. That's how they learn about the world, is with their mouths, and so they want to chew on people. But you don't let a puppy bite you, even if it's for fun, because when they're older, then they want to chew on you, and it's not fun. So it's the same thing with their horns. From when they're little babies, they want to come rub their little tiny horn, little like buds on me or their head, and I just lift their little head up and scratch under their chin, and I train them to not interact with people with their horns. And so that's why these guys are pretty good about knowing the difference. They can smash heads with each other, but they don't do it with people.
Yeah, I've never had any of them do that. Unless it was an accident, one bumps into me by accident or something.
When they're running by, they can, when they're running, they get a little...
a little bit. Yeah. Oh, just knocked the whole thing down. I love seeing them use the horns to, get some bark off a tree. There's, sometimes things with scent. Or, they just want to smell it, or I don't know. It's like they do it with the silk tassel, and same with the juniper a little bit. They're like, yes.
When they're rubbing their horns on the plants, yes. They love doing that. They do have a scent gland at the base of their horn. And I also think it just feels really good for them. They're, scratching that place between their horns, and they're like, oh, yeah, I gotta scratch it. And it becomes a little bit of a social thing, too. Sometimes one of them will be rubbing their horns on a sapling, and then they all come over and they all take turns rubbing their horns on the same exact branch. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Huh. What you would notice day after day spending time with them, it's like a lifelong study.
It is a lifelong
Keep
study.
learning things.
It's true.
I think about it if you have to walk that many hours in a day, you probably observe a lot about the land too. They're interacting with the land, you're in relationship to them interacting with the land, and it makes you get out and look at things when you could have just been inside all day or not doing that,
Yeah, and even what's really cool is I feel like the goats sort of keep me honest, even, it might be snowing or raining or really windy, and I'm like, gosh, I'd like to just, hunker down. But the goats, they got to eat, so it doesn't matter what the weather is. We still go out walking every day, and so I get to be out there even in, weather conditions that maybe I wouldn't choose to be out. And so, noticing those kinds of things too. It's fun to notice. They tune me into the land so much more than if I was just out here by myself, because of what you said. I'm just out with them, but also it's just noticing little things. Like one day they'll be really into a particular plant, and then the next day they're less into it, or in different seasons. So it's kind of noticing like, oh, like why they're obsessed with this pine bark. They really want to eat the bark off this pine, but then a few weeks later they're less interested, and it's like, oh, it's probably because the sap's not running anymore, and they really want that sap. Cool. So and it's like, oh yeah, okay, stuff like that. And also their vision is very good. You see how their pupils are this kind of like a rectangle when it's bright outside, and when it's dark they go more oval. But their vision is, they see in panoramic view, so they see a lot. They can see everything except directly behind them. They can notice movement from really far off. So they're paying attention to, and they're also prey animals, so they're keeping an extra ear out and an extra eye out. And there's 11 goats, so 11 pairs of eyes. So they pick up on stuff all the time that I would never notice. Just the other day, I was out and I was, writing or something, so I wasn't really looking around. I was like looking down, and I noticed that, about half of the goats were looking, and then all of them were looking, and so I'm staring and I'm looking where they're looking, and I don't see anything, but I know there's something there, because anytime, even if just 3 of them are all looking in the same place, I know there's something. And if they're all looking, there's definitely something worth paying attention to. So I'm staring and I'm like, what the heck? I'm looking and I don't see, but I know there's something there. And then eventually I see out of the rocks there's a coatimundi, and it was so cool. And I got to watch this coatimundi, and they crawled up this cool cliff face and went off, and I would have never even known that cool creature was just right there, because I'm just writing. And but the goats, they tune me in, and every day they tune me into something that I wouldn't have noticed before.
Excited.
This is a kind of mugwort in the Artemisia family, huh? Gosh,
Yeah.
I love these guys.
Collected some of that here before in the past. Not this year so far, but we got a little golden smoke too there coming up. The yellow flower, poppy family.
Here?
Yeah, it's in the poppy family.
Really?
People think it's a pea family,
Yeah,
but it's not.
I would have thought the flower looks very pea-like.
But if you look closer, it doesn't have that banner wings and keel. It's in the poppy family.
Golden smoke. Wow, yeah, they're really coming up over there. Gosh, I would have never...
It's always one of the first ones here in the spring. Yeah, if you chew it, it's a little bitter. Yeah, it's a little bit different of a flower. Yeah, poppy. It's a poppy.
Wow. Guys. The big boys here. Yeah, see, they wag their tails.
Because they actually like it.
They love it. They're having fun right now.
Oh, that was a little hop. Oh my god.
Yeah, they'll do that. They'll wind up. You're going to wind up, Onyx?
He's
wind
like,
up,
ready?
they stand on their hind legs and then bash heads from high up.
It was so nice to do that walk with them up the river ways last week. I'm like, when was that even? Feels like we've been here so long.
No.
And just seeing them navigate so much different terrain and water and
crawling through little rock holes and
and getting through tiny little crevices we all had to climb through, and they just kind of hang. They're like perfect for that, for getting through this like mixed terrain, much more than say a burro or a horse.
Oh yeah, there's so many things. I'll be out on the trail and I'm like, wow, I'm really happy I have goats right now, because if it was a horse, we'd be turning around. There's no way. There's just no way. They can just get into so many amazing spots. They're goats, But I love to see it too. They still surprise me, even on that walk. There was a few things I'm like, well, I don't know if they'll be able to fit through there or crawl through there. And, they got down on their front knees and were able to wedge their horns into through this crack, and they did
figured
it.
it out. Yeah, I was like, wow, seeing them know the spatialness of their heads with the horns and be able to fit through these little things is really cool.
Those little rascals. They love looking off cliffs like this. Anytime we get to an edge, they all have to go stand and just look off the edge.
I get scared.
They all do it?
Scared for them sometimes. Like, they go on the most crazy little cliffy terrain things, and I'm like, but I've never seen one fall, but...
Yeah, it's very rare for them to fall, so I've just learned to trust them, but sometimes I still would be like, ooh, Yeah. One time we were out in the wilderness, and the does, all the mamas, they all had their babies out in the wild. We were way out, and where we were camped was kind of up on this, there was a cliff in our camp basically, and we had our fire pit probably, so if this was the cliff right here, maybe our fire pit was here, and where we slept was a little bit further back, and the juniper that the goats hung was there, and the kids, so we had all the little babies were born out there in the wilderness, and they were playing and running around, and they would play and they'd be running straight for the cliff, and I'm like, oh no, but they would always stop just in time, and none of them ever fell off, and that was when they were little. They were just learning what their bodies could do, and none of them ever fell, and if they did, it would have been it was a very, very big drop, very rocky, very steep. Come on, goats.
Come on, goats.
Come on, guys.
Come on.
None of the mesquites have their leaves out yet, but if they did, the goats really love them.
Come on.
Come on, goats. Come on.
Come on. It's interesting getting stuck on cliffs between one... See, where they want to push their way through, but I'm on the edge of a cliff. This moment was a little foreboding because later in the interview, as you'll hear, there is an accident that happens on the cliff with the goats.
I'll just get going and then...
I'm like, all right. Go on, magpie. Go on. Go on. I'm interjecting here in the middle of our walk to give you a couple announcements and things to pay attention to. Callie, who we're walking with right now on the Ground Shots podcast, has classes that she's teaching this summer. You can go to her website and find out when she's teaching and what you can sign up for. Her website is linked in the show notes. And shop with Vibrant Earth Seeds. They are a Southwestern adapted seed company among a few really cool seed companies in the region where I live, and we have a discount code with them if you want to buy seeds and support us and the podcast. GroundShots10 is the discount code. We have a bookshop account where you can buy books for me or for yourself, and we get a kickback for the podcast if you do so. I often recommend books in my Substack when I'm writing about some of the issues that we get into on the podcast, and also if there are books mentioned in any podcast episodes, they often have a bookshop affiliate link. If you buy the book from them, an independent seller, it helps us both. All right, back to the walk. Oh, everyone's so excited. Those little, each one of them, their little head. Because they love the downhill, you said. In the willow patch.
I thought this, I mean, wherever you think, but this is kind of like,
Yeah.
maybe tucked out of the wind but anywhere in here.
They can just nibble on willow for a while, huh?
Yeah.
Whew. How long have you had goats? Or have you been in relationship with goats for?
Gosh.
Well, I know this, but I want to hear more.
Well, at this point it seems like most of my adult life, really, because I was in my early 20s when I got my first herd and had them for many years, almost 5 years. And then this herd I've had for 4 years. And then the break between those two herds, I still worked with other people with goats. In between the two herds, when I was taking a break from goats, I still went and worked for a friend of mine who's a hunting guide who actually bought goats from me. And so I just wanted to spend time with the goats that I loved and were like my family, but I wasn't their caretaker anymore. And so I went to go spend time with them, and he kind of realized, I was like, oh, he's like, you're pretty useful in the backcountry. And so then he started inviting me out on trips and stuff. So I'd spend time with those goats that were mine and then his during that break period too. So
Yeah.
a lot of years.
Most people know you nowadays from being on TV, but I knew you before that, and you have a whole life and world outside of that. It seems like the most of the time you've been an adult, you've spent a lot of time outside, living outside, having a lifestyle that's just like being close to the land. At least it seems like to me.
Yeah.
You grew up in Arizona originally? Yeah.
Yes, I am from Phoenix, Arizona, the city, the big city. Mm-hmm.
So you didn't grow up with being outside like that?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially now from, the Alone show, people are like, oh, you must have grown up in the backwoods and this and that. Like, no, I'm from the city, and that's how I knew I needed to be outside more, because I grew up pretty disconnected from everything that I felt a call to be connected to. Obsidian he has this
cute.
willow bent down, and it's like
Hitting us
right
behind
on
us.
Kelly's head. And the chewing is are you part of this?
So you
All these
didn't
little cat
go to
kittens.
college or anything?
Well, I did actually go to college. Yeah.
For some reason didn't think you did, but
I did. I went to ASU, Arizona State, known as the party school, but I think I only went to one party the whole time. And I studied biology and sustainable ecosystems.
Huh.
There was
Cool.
a program there. There's a whole, many programs within this at ASU called the School of Sustainability, and I went there through that program, and I also studied anthropology there. I got a minor in anthropology, and I learned a lot there, but I ultimately didn't learn what I was seeking, which was how can I live in a way that feels good?
yeah.
How can I live in a way that I'm feeling really good about the relationships I have with everything I'm using, everything I'm consuming, everything I'm eating. And so, but I did go to college, and it was really hard for me to get through it. I almost dropped out, I think, every semester. Not because I didn't love learning, but because I just wanted to be outside. I didn't want to be, stuck in a classroom or stuck in front of a computer having to read, hundreds and hundreds of pages on a screen and stuff like that. That was really challenging for my personality, I guess.
Yeah, it's a lot to put people through, and if you're studying something like that, when it's a lot of theory, I mean, I study philosophy, so I'm thinking about these things too. All this theory about like what went wrong in some ways, or like what kind of culture should we be living in, or like why do we think the way we do in this world, or why do we feel disconnected from so-called nature? Like all these theory things are nice, but like then at the end of the day, you get pushed out into the world to figure it all out, with a lot of like, now I know a lot, and how do I respond to that, you know? And for some of us, it's been learning how to do things with their hands in connection to land, or like having the knowledge of knowing how to try to translate a lot of that theory into life way, you know? And it's hard too in the world we live in to like do that, really. It's so foreign to a lot of people, and yeah.
Yeah, I just knew, from an early age, I just knew that I wanted to be outside. And when I was going through, college, it really solidified it for me, because I was working in a box office, and I was just, I just,
You had an office job?
Yeah, I literally worked in a box office.
What's that?
Like a box office.
What's
an
that?
Office. It's a box. No.
Oh.
No. I was selling, it was with
like selling tickets to theater?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it was for the arts department, which I love. I love the arts, all the arts I love. And so it was, one of the student jobs that I was like, oh, it's in the arts department, that'll be fun. But it was literally like in a box office selling tickets to theater and stuff like that. So it was cool to be able to see the different shows and all the different music. Some really amazing musicians would come through, and I would, get to see the shows because I was selling the tickets and stuff like that. But I was trapped in a box office.
It's hard for me to imagine you doing that.
I know, isn't it funny?
Like, yeah, so many people live that way. They're pretty comfortable with it, but
yeah. And everybody has, we all get to choose our own lives, and there's different things that work for some people that don't work for other people. And for me, that lifestyle could have been really comfortable for someone, but for me, I just felt such a longing in my soul. I just felt the wild was calling me, and it had been calling me way before that too. And I would go out, and I did some other things before. I didn't just go right into college. I did had some other crazy adventures, but I, felt that call and felt that pull, but I also felt the societal pull to, well, you get a degree first, and then, follow your calling, then listen to the callings of your heart, first fulfill your societal duties.
Get in debt too.
Yeah, get in debt, get really depressed, get really confused, get really turned around. And but anyway, I found my way back to where I knew I wanted to be, which was outside.
Do you feel like you ever get a lot of criticism from people for not participating in capitalism in the same way? Like, you get told that you're like lazy, or like not doing enough, or like, I don't know.
Sure. I mean, really, I think, well, it's
for what people assume about your life, that you don't work in the way that they do in capitalism or whatever,
Right. Yeah, I think it's easy. I think it's easy for all of us to assume things about a life that we're not in and don't understand. So I think people do have a lot of assumptions about what this lifestyle might be like. But what's really funny is, I think most of society sort of, it was like, what is this, kind of low life, is very viewed, like my choices is very like low life kind of choices. But what's so funny is since the Alone show, now it's sort of validated. And now people are like, oh, what you're doing is okay now because a capitalist thing, a consumerist thing, a TV show validated it, and now it's acceptable because there's a show about it.
Right. Yeah, like if you didn't get famous doing it, then you really should be doing something else. But if once you get famous doing it, you're like, oh well, maybe, yeah, like that is weird, because you've succeeded in some bigger way, even if you didn't like make a bunch of money or something, you know.
Right. Isn't it interesting? It's like, oh, what you're doing is, you should go get a real job. You should go get a real job. You should get some sort of job that has a 401k and a dental plan, but it's like, oh, you're on a TV show? I guess what you're doing's all right. I guess it's okay. It's acceptable now. But
you've proven yourself to the world that you can survive or something, and they couldn't. So maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's all, I feel like a lot of people just have that same pull. It's like, I felt that call. I felt the pull to the wild. The wild was calling me. And I think a lot of us feel this pull, whether it's, to the natural elements or to, create something with our hands from the natural elements, or to harvest our own food from the land. It's these like innate things that are just part of being a human being, and they're in our bones or in there, And so I think a lot of us kind of feel that pull, and I think that's why these shows are so popular now, like Alone and all the other sort of survival shows, is because people feel it. They feel that call, but they don't necessarily want to. They might not, maybe they do and maybe they don't want to get out there, but the shows are tickling that itch, and that's, I don't know, so
I haven't watched any of them at all. None of the Alones. Actually, I have friends who've been on them, and I'm not able to get TV, whatever, I don't even know I don't know. I just know it's out there and it happens. I just don't watch TV.
Well, good for you.
I don't have like the ability that you have to pay for certain channels and all these things, and I think there was one show years ago some friends of mine in North Carolina were on, and I went to the opening and watched one at a bar, the first episode, with one of the friends that was on the show. It was called Live Free or Die. And
oh yeah, I remember it.
And I watched that one, and then I was like, this is weird, because they're making his life look so odd and like not what it really is, but it's actually cooler than what they're showing on TV, and I'm like, I'm not watching any more of these.
Easy goats.
I feel like it's about it. Those shows in some ways, especially Alone, and we weren't really going to be talking about that a ton in this because I'm more interested in you as a person outside of that, but like how they have validated in general, like skills, the focus some of us have on learning skills and being land skills and being in connection in that way and taking the time to do that. Like I've seen it shift slowly, like this, oh, that is a kind of cool thing to be interested in, or like people are more willing to look at what you're doing and find it useful or good in some way, and maybe you're curious to learn from you or something like that,
Right. Yeah, I think that it's a funny world we're living in, I kind of viewed Alone as sort of easy goats, consumerism supported vision quest. It's like the crazy big system that we're all a part of, but it supported me to do this really incredible vision quest. Really is kind of how I viewed that whole journey for me, and it is interesting what it's, I think it is when, I guess when whatever's popular, what is it called when something's popular? The trends, when like the light of a trend is like shown on something, there's a lot comes from it. But one of the, maybe positive things is, more people, like even, family members, it's like maybe even your family is like, oh, well, there's shows about this kind of stuff, so maybe it is important. Mm-hmm. Not that what there's shows about marks if something's important or not, but I think maybe for the, larger societal norms, there could be some positive benefits, but
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah. But tell me about when you first started going out more. You've told me some, like you did the Arizona Trail after college, and then you just started being out on land all the time, like pretty much.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I also worked in wilderness therapy, which had a really big impact on kind of like up-leveling my skills and meeting real life people with skills, because before that I was trying to teach myself, like from a young from a teenager, I was trying to teach myself this stuff, you know, like way before college. I'd fill this pole, and I had all these plant books, and I'd go out on the, just go out into the desert and try to figure out, what plants I could eat, and what plants were medicine, and what plants ancient people used for different things. And as soon as I could drive, I would go out with just me and my dog. We'd spend whatever, Friday through Sunday just out. And sometimes I wouldn't bring any food, and I would just be like reading books. I was like, oh, it says here you can eat cattails. I guess I'll eat these cattails,
Your parents let you do that as a teenager?
They did. Yeah, they were.
Cool.
I'm so thankful for my parents, because not only did they give me a lot of freedom as a teenager, for better or worse, but they also, they took me camping, and they took me hiking, and they took me up to Montana. It's where my grandparents and my dad's from, up there. And, so they exposed me to life that wasn't just city life, and they got me outside. And so I'm so thankful for that. And then when I was a teenager, they really, let me just disappear for the whole weekend and just go off with me and my dog. And they even, when I was 16, they let me drive all the way from Phoenix, all up the whole coast, all the way up into Oregon and into Washington, just with,
Wow.
Yeah. When I was and at the time I felt all grown up, at 16. But looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, just a baby, just out there in the world, getting into all kinds of shenanigans. Anyway, I'm kind of getting distracted. The question is, yeah. So when I started working in wilderness therapy, I got to meet people, real people that were still carrying this old ancient knowledge, and not just learning from books, I was learning from books and learning, what the wild would teach me too, what the plants would teach me. But it was, really nice to meet people that had the skills, and that happened in wilderness therapy. And when I was out in wilderness therapy working those jobs, I just felt this sense. We would be moving across the land, just this little group of people, 5 to 10 people. Everything we needed, we were carrying on our backs, and we were off trail. We were just wandering out in these different places. And I was like, this is all I want to do, is just keep walking, keep exploring these places, and get off the roads and off the trails, and just explore and be out here. And so after, in that job, that's when I decided to just
living out there.
Stay and whatever, get rid of all my stuff, or not all of it, but whatever, 95% or something, and just stay. And that's kind of how it started. And then the goats came in because, well, it all kind of, back when I was a teenager and going out there and trying to figure out what plants I could eat, it was all stemmed from, obviously I love animals. I feel a really close bond to animals, and since I was young I wanted to work with animals. And when I discovered what where the food I was eating was coming from was pretty heartbreaking, and I wanted to find a better way, a better way to live and a better way to eat, in a way that felt good. And so I figured, maybe going back to the beginning and trying to learn, how did our ancestors live on the land, like way long back, like before agriculture and before grocery stores, and, trying to learn those ways, and like learn what it was like to be a hunter-gatherer, and learn what you can eat in the wild. And after doing that for a while, I just realized it's generations of learning, it's generational knowledge of how to live, 100% eating wild food for years and years and years, and be getting everything you need. And, all the, so much of the work that you do is realizing that people actually tended all those plants. They just weren't there. People were tending them and helping them be, more healthy and more abundant. And so just realizing like, oh, actually to be a hunter-gatherer is going to take, more than my lifetime to learn how our ancestors lived on the land. And so goats were like this bridge, a bridge back to that, because I could stay out in the wild, for a little while by myself, and a little while carrying food. I could carry 10 days of food if I was bringing food. And then if I was, trying to fish and eat cattails, that would extend it some. But, it's like you get hungry out there. And goats were this way that I could just stay out there kind of indefinitely, because they're making milk. They're turning all these amazing plants here, all this beautiful amazing plants, that I can't just eat willow all day or eat juniper all day, but they can, and they can turn it into milk, which is, such a powerful, amazing food that has everything my body needs in it, except for some vitamin C and some trace minerals. So it's like they were sort of this answer of like, how can I stay out?
Learn how to tan hides with Matt Richards of Traditional Tanners. Braintan.com is his website. Callie Russell and Matt Richards are old friends. He's got ongoing online classes where you can learn how to bark tan leather, hair on or hair off. And it's a pretty amazing resource for the community to show people how to accessibly tan without using chemicals, their own hides from the farm, or recycled from places that butcher animals but don't save the hides. Go check out his programs at braintan.com to see when you can sign up for the next class. You were influenced by seeing other people do it too. You've shared some mutual friends of ours, like sort of seeing that other people were trying it out and figuring it out and like doing it.
Yeah. It was who I walked the Arizona Trail with a sweetie of mine at the time, and he had done some goat packing before. Oh my gosh, smell how good this willow smells.
Wow. Yeah. It's gonna make me sneeze.
Oh, will it make you sneeze?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. Everything seems
so
to when it's
sweet
out.
This little willow catkin. But anyway, we were out walking. We were on a big long walk and a long adventure, and then we ended up meeting up with some of his friends, which were goat packers that had already been, packing goats, which you know them. They're friends of yours too, from way back long time. And, they had been raising goats for years, and we ended up getting goats from them. And so began the next crazy saga.
And you guys would stay out for months and months, and you'd be doing your wilderness therapy jobs in between, which is like work, you're working and then go back out and like just really be. Yeah.
Well, actually, it was after I stopped working the wilderness therapy, because it was like I was going full in, like full in deep, and so I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
I was just out there and trying to figure out how to just live as a job, or how to in the early days, I wanted to know how I could learn everything I needed to learn so I could get everything I needed from the beautiful land around me, instead of having to go make money to buy the stuff I needed. So that was kind of my goal, is to like figure out how to live without money.
Did you feel like you succeeded?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting question, because on some levels, yes, and on other levels, no, because I learned that I can live out there and I can stay out there, and everything I need is out there. And I also learned I come from a culture that isn't out there, and I love my family and my friends that aren't trying to live like that, and I still want to be connected with them. So I realized that sort of push and pull, or that tug, and kind of realized, well, I don't want to, I realized for me to go to live completely without money means leaving my culture behind, like leaving my family behind.
Yeah.
And is kind of, and maybe that's not accurate, you know, maybe other people have found other ways, but that's kind of what I came up against, was like, you go all the way in, or you still find a way to still have some money to be able to do the things that require you, like traveling to see your family, you know.
Yeah. Having one foot in and one foot in like different worlds is what you end up having to do, and it can be both what works and be painful, and you know, it's like this pull between realms, you know.
Totally.
But like if you're out here long enough with your friends, it's a little bit easier. We've been with a group of friends at this spot for a little bit, and it's like so nice, such a different experience than when you're alone. Of course, having time alone is great, but that whole lone man in the wilderness myth of America, you know, it's like go out and conquer nature alone, but maybe just for a little while, and then you need people. You know, you're really supposed to go at it alone, or with just 2 people, or maybe even just 3 people. And that tribalism, just like the goats need each other, people do too. And it's like capitalism isolates us. I'm like not looking forward to leaving here and going and being in my own little like churn of capital, you know, like, okay, I'm in my world by myself, doing my job, doing the jobs, you know. That is isolating, but also like if you run away from it all and no one else can do it, that's isolating too. So how do you find that balance, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I ran into out there.
Yeah.
And nowadays I feel like there might be more people willing to go full in, but at that time I mean, that's the other thing too, you have to go out into the world to find people that might want to go live like that too. But anyway, at that time I didn't really know anybody else other than the person I was out there with that wanted to go full in, you know.
Yeah.
And part of me wanted to stay and be full in, and the other part of me is like, I'm not trying to like leave all of my friends and family and community behind either, to just go be a hermit, because that's not what I'm trying to do. Go be a hermit out there. That doesn't feel like, I just feel like I'm missing out on a big part of life, because it is, we are like clan, you know, or people. We want to be with other people, and that's how I think we thrive. And I mean, I, like you too, I love alone time. Like I do really, really, really good alone. I love it. But for, you know, talking about for like, you know, 10 years, a lifetime, definitely want that to be in community, you know.
Yeah, we can find that balance of having our alone time but have people nearby and get to see them and share certain things, and like we need that, you know, both things. Yeah. Did you ever feel like it was hard to integrate back in the world when you did have to come back in?
Oh, it was excruciating. It was so challenging. Now I feel like I've kind of gotten my potato baked or something like that, as they say. I don't know if anyone says that, but I feel, I guess, or I could say it a different way. Nowadays, I feel really adaptable, and I feel like I have the ability to go between worlds much easier now. Oh, hi. Yes. Oh, hello. Oh, yes.
Honey.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The kisses.
Oh. Hi, honey. We have a dog attack happening. Not the first one on the podcast. Hi, honey.
You're gonna sit between us, yes, and lick us so much.
She really?
We love you too.
You want milk? Is that what it is?
Are you wanting some milk? Can we milk the goats? We can milk the goats. Oh yes, you do milk.
It was hard to integrate. But you feel like you're more adaptable now, which it's interesting. Some of us, we were talking like last week, there was more people at our camp who work in wilderness therapy or have in the past, and I kept hearing that theme too of like not just working in that, but the more you spend time out, and you could call it the wild or call it like land that is less messed up by people, with highways and all the wires and all these things.
Yeah, wild's just an easy word to use.
Yeah, you're forced to go with the flow and have to deal with like storms, or have to deal with being cold or too hot, or like not have your water when you want it or whatever, like, and that is something that you get built from working wilderness therapy, but also as a person who's there for whatever reason, a student. And enough time spent out is like whether you're doing it in that structure or just you're going out because you're doing it for yourself. It's like it changes you, like every layer, every bit of time you spend changes it gives you a tiny little bit more nudge room to like be uncomfortable or to be able, and it can eventually, adaptability can look a lot of ways, right? I mean, it is a lot coming out of here in the stimulus of the world. But yeah, eventually, if you want to be in both worlds, you have to figure out how to use that tool to be able to adapt.
Yeah, and these days I feel more adaptable, that I can go between worlds and I don't just get flattened, because before I couldn't, I was so, I don't know, I was so used to being out that all of my senses were just wide awake, and so going back into a town, or even just I remember like getting to pavement that I haven't seen pavement, and I like would get to pavement on foot and just start crying, just start bawling, just like setting foot on the pavement. And like I was so sensitive, and I have so many stories of, coming back in, or like getting into the car for a first time in a few months or something, and then moving so quickly, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're just going by so fast, and like I can't even say hi to all the plants, and I can't even see or can't even smell. It's like all moving so fast, and I'm still not even in town yet, and so then getting into town is like, oh geez, I was dysfunctional. I couldn't function in town at all. Like I couldn't do it, and I just have to turn right back around without like whatever I went into town to do. It's like I had to go back, and it was just like completely overwhelming. But now
I think something's wrong with you too. Like I definitely felt that. Like I'm just getting too sensitive now that I've been out there a lot. Like, oh, am I doing something to myself that I shouldn't do by not being able to handle the world? Like, that's a dilemma where people are like, just meditate more, you can handle the world more. And I'm like, why should I have to handle the world we live in? Why should I have to be okay with it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways,
yeah, or like, I mean, so much of it is
just
like
questions,
so obtrusive to our senses, like smells and stuff, like all like, oh my gosh, like detergents and all kinds of crazy. I mean, even in the wild, like I can smell people from so far off. If there's like hikers coming, you can smell them
because they have detergent on their clothes.
Yeah, from
deodorant.
Yeah. It's crazy. And so anyway, getting into town and all this, it's like an assault on your senses, so it's like, I think it's good to be sensitive. There's nothing wrong with being sensitive, but I have gotten to this place these days where I really feel at ease with flowing with life, whether that's out here where we can't see anything that's made by the hands of modern people, or if it's in whatever, on an airplane, there's something that's like happened to me from all this time out here that I feel like I can flow now, and I can, and it's, oh, hi little mosquito. This is the first one I've seen. Have you seen any?
One or two have been in my
he's got like a
space.
little rainbow on their wings.
I'm like, we're in a little mucky spot right here. There they are.
Are you gonna? That's kind of a pretty callousy spot to try to get some blood. The mosquito's on my knee, trying to get.
There's a
I
few
just
out.
feel like there would be a softer place to choose than my knee.
It's kind of like, oh gosh, it's not winter anymore.
She's going for it. Really?
Right there.
Come on, there's way softer places. It's so interesting. Always surprised. Oh, I can feel. Ooh, it tickles. It kind of hurts. She's like. She's trying to get in there. She's doing her darndest to get through that callus.
Did you ever feel like there was a moment that was like you realized you needed to be more 1 foot in the world and 1 foot, like there was like some pinnacle moment of like you almost died, or you just got so like, okay, I can't take this anymore, like only seeing 1 or 2 other people all the time or whatever, or was it a gradual thing?
That's a good
Just
question.
Curious.
I don't know. I think it's just. I think I've just sort of followed the. I don't know. It's kind of like a path. The path just. There's just like one more stepping stone, in front of me, and I just take it and just have kind of followed that. And it's like life has kind of led me to where I am at today, which is a little different than when I was just, out all the time. But that's a really good question. If there was this like moment, I think it was a lot of little, it was really just following what life was kind of putting in front of me, but I know it was a big thing. Like I have younger sisters. I'm the oldest, and I knew I wanted to be involved in their lives. I didn't want to be like this older sister that they hardly knew and was like some distant relative. I wanted them to know me and me to know them, and I wanted to be a part of their lives. And so I know that was a really big thing for me, is wanting to make sure I was around for my sisters, which, a lot of times I would be out, I wasn't accessible by phone or anything. If there was like something going on with them and they like wanted their big sister to talk to, they couldn't.
How many sisters do you have?
I have 3 younger ones.
Cool.
Yeah. And the youngest one's 15 years younger, so it's like a pretty big age gap. And I just wanted to be more there, for her. So that that was a big thing that pulled me to have a foot in both worlds, and make sure I wasn't completely leaving this one. Oh, look how long it's taking her to fill up. She's like
it's
half
a tough
full.
spot. There's some blood in there. Whoa.
Yeah, she's getting it though.
I would have not been able to take it that long. Seeing it. Whoa.
Yeah, it's like, sometimes the bugs will drive you crazy, and they'll drive me crazy too. I'm no Buddha. I definitely get driven crazy by bugs, but I also like to, if I can, try to embrace them too, because this like mosquito right now is gonna go feed the birds. Maybe one of those, or the bats even. We've been seeing these bats every evening, which you and I have been. It's been so cool seeing those bats, and like this mosquito is gonna get eaten by maybe one of those bats, or maybe
First mosquitoes of the season.
A bird. And I think it's really cool to think my blood is feeding those bats I love watching so much. Like it's like, yeah, I'm a part of this. I'm not just here as this observer. I'm here, I'm in it. My blood is like in this ecosystem now,
It's been neat being here in this spot. We're not going to say where it is on air because it's a top secret, but it's being in this area, and there's been many times I've been here this time of year, but like getting here pretty early this year in winter, basically, almost like very into winter, and really seeing things slowly emerge. I'm noticing, I'm like, wait, all of a sudden there's so much green, but when I first got out here it was pretty everything was pretty sleepy except for like some tiny little, just little bitty babies here and there, and I love that magical time right now, like seeing it all start to emerge. So it's just, oh yeah, there's a mosquito out. That would have not been the case a month ago.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Like,
and yeah, the willows and the cottonwoods have just exploded with life and blooms, and all the bees, like hearing all the bees up in the tops of the cottonwoods getting the...
Yeah, they've been enjoying that. That's like, sometimes you can walk by them and there's just this almost roaring sound from the amount of bees, and then these like artemisias have been coming up bigger and bigger every day, and it's super cool. Part of me never wants to leave here, but alas, we eventually have to get out there into the wide world.
The life of a nomad.
Yeah,
sometimes you gotta leave when it's
good.
Really good. Really, really good.
Then you ask yourself, why do I have to leave?
But that's the life of it. And, that's the life of the nomad, but it's the life of a human, because I think, by nature...
Humans are movers.
Yeah, we're movers. We have to. It's a very weird thing, us bringing all of the resources to us. Usually we just go to throughout time, we just go we move to where things are happening.
Yeah, it's more natural to be a nomad, ultimately, Honey, I am curious.
Oh, the mosquito, she went. She only looked 3/4 full, though.
Yeah, maybe Honey scared her off.
I'm spending this summer in the mountains gathering medicine for Apothecary Update in the late summer and fall, and for Land Capsule subscribers. It's a project I haven't done in several years, but it works kind of like a food CSA, but with herbal medicine. So go to my website of sedgeandstock.com to check out the store and see if there's any shares left. You can order it ahead of time and then receive a share in late August or in the fall. And all of the medicines will be coming from medicine making this summer or this past spring when I was hanging out with Callie in the deeper Southwest. Go check it out.
We're all looking for how do we live. We're all wondering, well, maybe not everybody. Some people maybe have figured it out. They're just happy with how they're living. But I think a lot of us are asking the questions of how do we live? How do we live in a way that feels good and feels healthy, like not just for me, but for all the other beings, all the other species out there. And it's tricky because those of us that want to turn to the more remote places are thinking about our impact is really important. And goats can play such a huge role in land restoration, and goats can be such a amazing animal in rehabilitating land. They do so much good
in
on
what
land.
ways?
Well, I mean, even a lot of places, it depends. Well, this is your work, but on different ecosystems, different plants like to be interacted with in different ways, but some don't like to be crowded out and grow so close together, so they can really help go in like thin forests. Well, that's a whole nother topic of how in the north I'll like do forest management and thinning with them. But thinning places, clearing places, but also their poop is so good. They create soil. Where the goats go, they're making soil. And they also can eat, knapweed and all these plants that's also a whole nother just conversation, but plants that people are having a hard time with. Goats can eat them, and they're actually not replanting the seed. So certain animals that are eating
Cows,
horses, and horses, they're just if they're eating, any of say knapweed, for example, they're replanting, in their poop. But goats, they process everything so well, they're not replanting seeds, so they can be a really amazing animal if someone is trying to remove a certain plant species from an area like knapweed because they're not replanting it.
Or stimulate growth like willow.
Exactly, stimulate growth. Yeah, willows love it. So many plants love to be eaten down and stimulated in that way, as you know. And all of your podcast listeners would know with all the amazing work that you're doing with like how we're working with plants and with the land. And so goats can be really amazing with land restoration. And thinking about having them in wild places, they can also do a lot of good, or again, wild places.
What is wild?
More conversations, but in more remote, away from the larger human populations, they can have a positive, more positive impact on the land. But if everybody was doing this, if there was, whatever, 500 people out here all with a herd of goats, this place would be drastically changed. And so I think anything that we do, thinking about the collective, is so important. Okay, if I'm doing this, what does it look like? If a bunch of people are doing this, what's the impact? And like, how do we do that responsibly? And just being very aware, and especially with having animals, any animals on public land, the public land, it's all of ours to take care of and tend, and so thinking about the collective, everything that, I do, I try to, think about that collectively and not, do anything that's going to ruin it for other people, because the reality is we do have that ability to ruin it for others, not just in taking care of the land, but also with like our current system of laws and legality. If, people that have goats on public land get a bad reputation, the laws change. And that's what's already happening, in Washington. Just recently, pack goats are banned in certain areas on public land because of the choices of some other, herders, So it's like we all work as whether we know each other in person or not, we're working as a collective. And so really thinking about being aware and conscious of each one of our choices can affect everybody else. And, I think that's very important to think about.
Yeah.
And just thinking about like the impact on the land. Usually, goats can have a pretty good impact, but if you have a big herd, that's a bigger impact. And certain areas are really sensitive, really high country alpine areas. So if I'm ever in sensitive areas, and even when I'm not, I always carry sheets, So if there's in a camp where there's, here there's no problem, but in certain places there's like trees where the goats will really want to eat the bark, and I don't want them to eat the bark because we're trying to have, it's whatever, high alpine country, so I'll take that sheet and wrap the trees so they can't eat the bark, just cool. Like thinking about
so
stuff.
You throw rocks at them sometimes when you don't want them to eat a certain bush. You're like, no, keep that one there,
Yeah, exactly.
Silk tassel, I think by the one spot, you're like, no, leave it. Or no, it was the 3 sumac. You didn't want them to keep eating.
And it was next to the silk tassel too.
Yeah.
Just thinking, because anywhere, if we're moving, no problem. Their impact, it's like very good. But if they're going to be in one place for a while, that's where you want to watch and be like, hey, what plants are they having like a high impact on? Do we need to move? Or, certain trees, I'll like, wrap the trees so they're protected. And especially, in sensitive areas, there's places that I'm like, oh, I don't even really want to, it's just really thinking about the land, thinking about other people, and just realizing we're all part of a collective. And
when you're with goats, this is something Ethan talked about when he did his episode with me a couple episodes back. Like, when you're doing this kind of pastoral life way, you are ultimately more intimately woven. And if you're doing it in this way where you're moving with them, you don't keep them in like a little pen and feed them hay every day. You're moving with them, or you go out every day on the lands and give them opportunity to eat whatever's up. You end up being able to make micro choices because of what you're observing by being a part of that. And that is, like, if you just have a bunch of cattle on the land, like at the winter count site, it's just like out in the desert, like, and there's nobody there with them, they don't know the impact that's happening ultimately, because they're not intimately seeing it and woven in it. And perhaps if people lived out there with them, they might. But when you're more with them and you walk with them and you're a part of it, you see, you've talked about that, like seeing what they eat day to day, and like noticing when you're somewhere longer, like we've been here for a little while, and like what they're doing and how it's impacting day in and day out, or like being there a couple hours. Like you can make choices with that in mind, like not wanting to do that, But yeah, there is also the factor of like number of people. There's certain cases where there'd probably be great if a lot of people were in the place with that, but then other places not so much, so.
Right.
Yeah. And some people do it like
And or somebody in California, I know John O'Mara, he has a bunch of goats and he'll take them out and on people's private land and like help, it's like do restoration work with them out there.
Yeah, there's so many good opportunities for that. There's other folks too in Montana, Ivan and Chia, they have a big herd, and they actually get paid to graze on BLM land because the knapweed and stuff, to graze on these places where they're trying to, have less of certain plants growing there. And I think there's such an opportunity for people to have goats, working with goats, and that situation's on public land, but on private land, private and public, if it's working in an intentional way with the animals, and not just like, oh yeah, we just do whatever we want and the goats let us just do whatever we want out here. It's like, no, like let's like think about the collective and the whole here, because really everything we do affects everybody else, so
Yeah. But maybe we should start walking back for sunset hour. What do you think?
Yeah,
Cool.
that sounds good.
Can't believe we got mosquito eaten a little bit here.
Oh, we were gonna I have the jars and stuff.
Oh yeah, well we can do it whenever down the way. Yeah. Oh yeah, go this way. Come on, goats. Yeah?
Yes, goats. You guys gonna stay here? You're the goats.
Come on, goats.
You're such a goat.
How you guys gonna get up here, huh? Somehow. Yeah.
Let's see, are you gonna go around?
There's a little corridor here. I don't know though. How you gonna? Oh, one. Okay.
Oh, what a big boy.
Go ahead. Rafiki. Yum yum.
You love the silk castle.
Good medicine.
Smell.
I love Rafiki's bangs. I'm like, let me just touch them. It's like he perfectly curled them like 80s style. Like, oh.
Well, I do. We pack in a curling iron so we can do his hair. It's actually really important.
Fashion.
It's very important.
Okay. Do you want to do a full milking or just a little cup?
Rocky Mountain goats.
All right, you guys. Go on.
Hey, that was rude. Hey, whoa. Oh my god.
The
ending of the podcast, Callie falls down the cliff in a prickly pear and then into the river.
God.
Great ending.
Oh my god, that would have been crazy if like I had been recording the whole time and I fell down the hill.
Oh my god.
With you
Like, this is why no one should get goats.
Something about walking with them on the trail. They like to be together, and if you're in the middle of them and it's a cliff and they want to get around you, you gotta like think about that. Yeah, and that just happened a little bit. Oh my god. Whew, I'm okay. It's all good.
I'm glad you're okay. For a moment, I wasn't sure.
I wasn't sure what you saw, but I was hanging down there.
Yeah, you almost fell down the cliff. And I saw it. I was like, of course, there's a prickly pear right there, too. I was just like, don't let Kelly fall into the prickly pear.
Because then it's like, oh, got to get off the cliff from down, like, and, or if I tumbled through the prick, God, I don't know. I mean, I could have broken a neck or something, like, and be covered in prickly pears. God.
Yes, goats
Oh my
have their
God.
hazards. It's not all sunshine and rainbows with them, you know. Even when they're good, they're still goats, and they're like, well, whatever. We can fall off a cliff. Like,
Yeah.
look, Obsidian's down there off the cliff. How did he get down there?
Oh my goodness. I don't
How did he get down
know.
there, and how is he gonna get somewhere else?
They like to get in your baskets and steal citrus and things too, or whatever. Whew. Okay, let's go a little further off the cliff, grab a little cup of milk, and then go soak.
Okay.
Oh my God. Whew. It's already a precarious spot anyways. It's barely here.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, the trail is barely here, and I'm like, damn.
Just yanked her back. There also can be a hazard when they're up above you. Oh, the moon is so pretty right there.
Oh.
But when they're up above you, as they're walking, they'll push rocks down.
Yeah, that happened when
And
we walked last week.
yeah,
I remember
remember?
that one, and
Yeah, a big rock.
we were all like down here and nowhere to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, mainly you were in
Yeah.
the way of it, but I was like, oh,
They
God.
can knock you out, you know? They can just send a boulder going down, and it's real.
The hazards
And
and
they're-
joys of
And they're like
goats.
oblivious. They're just like, wow, we're just eating, knocking down deathly boulders.
Yeah. When we were on the goat walk before camping here with the other goats, they got on the cliffs a couple times and there was like debris falling, and we were a little bit like, I don't know, is that okay for them to be up there? But I'm learning more and more that no, there's a limit, I guess, but they kind of know what they're doing.
Oh, there's a pinyon. They
Ooh,
love
big
the
ol' pinyon.
pinyon pines so much.
Hopping, yum. That's a big one too.
Yeah, it's
Nice big ones right here. It's like all of a sudden the ecology just changes right here.
right here.
So cool. From sycamores to pinyon juniper, just like that. Gosh. Ooh. Shake that out.
Shake it off like the nervous system.
Yeah.
Yeah, shake it out.
Shake it out.
Shake it out.
Yes, I know. Oh, you like that? Yeah.
Onyx, you is just good boy.
So big.
You're a good boy. You're a very big boy. You are a very big boy. You're like a pony.
Do you want to milk something?
like a
right,
little
milk
pony.
right here, or like?
Oh yeah, it's a nice open.
Okay.
Let's just not milk on the cliff.
Yeah.
Oh, Jade. Jade.
I'm gonna miss the morning cappuccinos.
Yes.
Goat
Goat
cappuccinos.
Cafe. Jade.
Jade.
Jade. Oh, that's
you
a
got?
special treat.
Somebody left a papaya skin or something. I don't know.
Watermelon rind.
Mm.
Magpie. You. Oh yes, you eat that nice watermelon. Yes. Is that delicious? All right. Welcome to the Goat Cafe is open.
Chocolate milk tonight?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some good chocolate milk. It's the one-handed milking here. Let's do it. Yeah, just the goats are alchemists, you know? They're just taking all these amazing plants out here and turning them into this delicious white gold. The elixir of life. Thank you, Magpie. Thank you so much.
Just filling up. Quick.
Thank you, Magpie. You wags your tail. Report. Thank you, Magpie. Thank you so much. You have such good milk. Oh, yes. Thank you, Magpie.
Look at all these skeeters everywhere. Or no, are these skeeters?
I think they're the little, like, blue fairies. I don't know what they're called.
Blue
but
fairies. Okay.
do other people call them blue fairies?
I think I heard that. Yeah.
That's what they look like. Nice quart of milk. All foam on top.
You're like,
Thank
all
you,
right.
Magpie. A sip. Have a sip.
Warm from the teat.
The best right out of the udder. Cheers to the sunset.
Yes.
So good. It's really fun noticing the different flavors in the milk based on what plants they're eating.
So what do you feel like you've noticed here? Like with lots of more juniper and silk tassel and...
Yeah, well, I feel like I can always taste the willow. I feel like the willow makes their milk extra sweet. And then there's different hints. I don't know, like this milk today. And sometimes you can even, on the goat, you can taste different things within each, which goat is making the milk.
Oh, like each, you can tell whose is whose.
Sometimes, sometimes they eat a little different things because they get to select. They know what they need, and that's the nice thing about them being able to forage
Versus just feeding them feed every day, or
right, because who knows if you're giving them the right thing. But out here, there's so many different options and variety. They get to choose exactly what they need. They might need a little more of this or a little more of that, and they get to choose it. And so, easy. Monkey,
You guys.
you're really something,
a little monk.
I do love being with these guys.
Definitely been thinking about getting goats for a long time, and being here with them certainly is inspiring me. Figuring out the right setup, though, like how to move them around, have it be the right piece of land, the right, having the right setup is certainly part of it. But
Yes, it is such a big amount of work. It's funny because I got into goats, I was kind of seeking a more simplistic lifestyle, really.
Funny.
But with goats, it's way more complicated. It's so much more
it's
complicated.
like having a ton of children, and they're always with you at every moment, and they never get older where they move away.
Yeah.
And if you have to have them out however many hours, I don't know how many hours a day they need to be foraging, but that's a lot of your time,
Yeah, it is, and some, and you can't bring them everywhere. It's like really limiting too. You're like, oh yeah, I could go do that, but I have goats, so, so having land that, there's land, and with other people too, so you can kind of share the responsibility or have a place where they can stay there. But so many years of my life, it was like, well, the goats are literally with me. So if the goats can't come with me, I'm not going to do that thing.
You couldn't go to the grocery store because they would have to come in with you.
Yeah, or if I was at the grocery store and if I walked to the grocery store, that's a different story. But if I had a vehicle, I could leave them in the truck or leave them in a trailer or something. But yeah, it's like people, yeah, just so many things. Like,
put a baby goat in the grocery cart, take him around with you. Or, come on, goats! Come on, goats!
So I do think, yeah, if you have a place and land and you can, have fencing and then leave them there and go do things, then it is more, sustainable or maybe more reasonable. Maybe not more sustainable, just more reasonable of a thing than literally just having goats with you all the time.
Yeah.
It's a little much. Just
Yeah.
for only
Come
for
on, goats.
crazy people.
Mhm.
Come on, goats.
Do you ever dream about your goats?
Like, are they in my dreams?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have all kind. Like, I have goats.
Oh. So they don't come break into your bell tent in your dream and snag your snacks. Maybe they do that in real life. I don't know.
That's more of a real life. That's real life that happens. They really like to push boundaries all the time. They prefer to sleep in bed if they could.
In your bed with you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah. They love to cuddle. They
man.
love to cuddle. Anytime I put down a sheepskin on the ground, I'm like, oh, I'm going to put down this sheepskin or this felt down on the ground for me to sit on before I can even sit on it. A goat's already laying on it.
Yep.
They're like, oh, thank you. I love it when you put the sheepskin down. It's for me, right? Oh, I forgot when we started talking about alone, I was like, oh, I thought of something funny to say, and then I forgot about it. But it's actually not that. But when you were like, I don't even know where to watch. Like, you're like, I can't even. Even if I wanted to watch the show, I don't know how to watch it. And what's funny is when I found out I was going on the show, because I never watched the show either. And then I was like gonna be on the show, so I was like, I better watch the show. I better like learn more about this because maybe I'm gonna be on it or something. But I didn't know how to watch it either. I was like, how do I watch this show? Like, I don't even know. And so it was really funny. Jim Knapp and I were going to the laundromat to watch this season 6, the one that Wonia was on. Mm-hmm. And so we were like going to the laundromat to be able
they have
to
it
watch.
on public. They have a TV in there.
There's cable, yeah. It's like on cable. So like.
Wow, and you would watch Bonita on there.
Yeah. One. Yeah.
Or she was one of the people.
Yeah,
that.
we'd watch Wonia on there, but it was fun. Not every time Jim was with me. But yeah, that's like how I was trying to watch the show, was at the laundromat, because it was the only way I could figure out how to watch it. But it was really fun. Jim was with me on the season finale when Wonia, it was when she went home, it was the one that Jordan won. But it was just cool to see see it live. And with Jim, it was fun. But just hanging at the laundromat. And that's actually how, when my season was airing, I also didn't have a way to watch it. But my family was like, we want to watch it. And so we all went to the laundromat.
To see you.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, thanks for listening along to this new episode of the podcast. Number 83 with Callie Russell. It's a little bit of a wild ride, that goat walk with us headed out into the willow patch, me almost falling off a cliff and heading back. So thanks for listening in. The music for this podcast episode, as always, Mother Marrow is the musician that has stuck with us the whole time since the beginning. So go check out Mother Marrow's music on Bandcamp. Always linked in the show notes. I believe that Charity of Mother Marrow is playing a little bit of music this summer in the form of shows, but you'll have to go check out their schedule on their website to find out when and where they're playing. Come study with me this summer here in Western Colorado. My field ecology and critical ethnobotany program through the nonprofit Groundwork that is based locally here in Western Colorado. And it's relevant if you're Colorado local, but also if you live in the Southwest, the West, and beyond. Anyone who's come from any bioregion has gotten something out of these courses, because I'm not just speaking about specific place-based learning only, even though we do really dig deep into this place's geology, history, and human co-created landscapes. But the tools we gain together in my classes are relevant anywhere you live. Some of the stuff we dive into: the problem with wilderness, basic and intermediate plant ID, Colorado River politics, ethnoecology and the philosophy of ecology and society, Colorado, southwestern and western ecologies, like I just said, and ethnobotany in a modern context, land tending for ecological health, somatic eco-mapping and naturalist skills, seeds, roots, and fruits and what they tell us, anthropogenic landscapes, archaeo-ecosystems, and problem-solving the future through experiential ecology. Some of our days look like this. We do morning sit spots. We spend time in discussion based on readings that we all dug into the night before. We eat locally sourced meals cooked for us 3 times a day. We take field trips from our base camp to nearby trails and eco zones. We do beginner and intermediate level hikes, nature journaling games, writing exercises, plant sits. We key out plants. We learn plant families. We do cordage making. We have fires in the evenings and tell stories. And the lessons can be structured, but we also have flexibility for whatever the group is really wanting to dig into. We can adapt to what the group wants. And we also take time for rest and study. So you receive in these classes with me, and then Nikki teaches the ones in late August and early September as well. Nikki Hill, who's been on the podcast, I think 3 times at least over the years. You can sign up or check out the dates for Nikki's classes as well through Groundwork's link in my show notes, layinggroundwork.org. You find the classes under the Human and Natural Ecologies of Colorado pages, and it also shows pictures and media from past classes. All right, y'all. Thanks for waiting so long for a new episode of the podcast. This July, I'm going to be taking off on some walks and doing a bunch of medicine making for the herb shares that I'm offering up and for the next chop update. So stay tuned for when that occurs. And I'll also be trying to get some more sheep hides tanned soon too. I've been moving around and I may not even really have a main place to live for a couple months this summer and just be out of my truck. So I'm going to do the best I can. I'll have a studio space for my medicine, but I'm going to just take that time to be out in the woods more. So hopefully we'll still have consistent, regular podcast convos. I've got a few lined up that I'm really excited about. If you want to support the podcast, I've laid out so many ways to do that in this episode. You can also just directly Venmo us, Kelly-Moody-6. All right, y'all. Take care. Be careful with your goats out there.
Logs of locust cedar splits. I offer sweat and splinters. Forest elders breathe their last. I'll bring them for your supper. Every piece of wood I bring carries a story in lichen, fungus, beetles, maze. It's the same to you, all ablaze. Burn with the heat at the heart of the earth. winter's creeping in. I'm stacking sticks on bended knees so you will keep me company. I'll bring you branches, feed you logs, so soon this wood will all be gone. I'll build you a lovely home, I'll leave you lots of breathing room. Logs of locust, cedar split.